Shifting identities. The other day, I stumbled upon the artwork of a woman named Nam Kinnear King, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that in any way, but I instantly felt that kind of head over heels in love resonance that you feel when you see something that feels so you. It's like looking in a mirror. That is how her paintings instantly felt to me, like looking in a mirror at a past self. And I wanted to not only share some of her gorgeous work with you today, but also share what this work brought up for me. I'm including all of the pieces that were particularly resonant with me in my email newsletter that I sent out. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you don't see them at the moment, but you can find them in the email or blog post that I sent out. Though honestly, every single one of her pieces was very resonant because I just wanted to share this moment and I wanted to share this art, and also because I wanted to explore this familiar resonance that I felt and what came up for me as I viewed these paintings. When I read her about section, which is what I went to next, she used 2 words in a sentence to describe her work, which immediately rang like a bell in the night with everything I have been moving through and recognizing about myself for about the last 6 months or so. And the words that she used were sweet melancholy. Now, I don't know if you remember a podcast episode and a post that I did many months back where I was talking about how I had recognized that the kind of poetry and music that I was formerly so enraptured with suddenly had this kind of heavy, sweet, syrupy sadness quality to it to me that no longer felt uplifting and good and expansive to me the way it used to. But instead, now that same kind of poetry and stuff felt heavy and was not resonating with me anymore, which alarmed me because it used to feel like home. Hands over the eyes sobbing emoji on that one. It used to feel like home, but I noticed it didn't anymore. So anyway, when I read those words that she used, sweet melancholy, I was like, ding, 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 ding. Yep, that's it. That's what it was. Sweet melancholy. That's almost exactly how I described it in that podcast, in that post. But she used better words. So now, as I looked at these paintings, I was both in love with them and enraptured by them as so familiar to me, but I could also so clearly watch and see that energy, that feeling of that energy coming over me so much more clearly than before. And what it's like is it's like this kind of deep loneliness, magical and mysterious, yes. So beautifully haunting, yes, all of which I love so much, but also sad and alone, deeply sad and wistful, kind of repressed or suppressed, not understood, but at the same time, so very in love with magic and mystery and all of the mysteries of life and all of its curiosities, these girls in the painting. The self I see reflected back in these paintings is so full of magic and longing for adventure and is just enraptured with dreams and possibilities. But she's also so alone, so unseen, so forlorn. It feels like not just my identity, but the identity of so very many artists of every medium and kind, of the past and of today. Like that kind of identity is the identity of artists so often. We talk a lot these days about reversing the starving artist identity and paradigm, but what about also the forlorn and unseen, unappreciated artist identity? Or the sad and misunderstood artist identity and paradigm? Because that is the one I feel so deeply in my bones. But it's not deep in my bones, actually. It's just an identity. It's just a story that I have identified with and called my own. I made it precious. I made it meaningful. I didn't mean to. It was automatic. And I think it's automatic for so many artists of all walks. I think this is why I fell so completely in love with Alice in Wonderland, the movie, the new version by Tim Burton years ago. Because she starts out this way, like in this identity I'm describing. Sad, repressed, and misunderstood for being the free, magical spirit that she is. But she ends up captaining her own ship and being a catalyst of new brave adventures in the end, and taking the creative lead in a male-dominated industry. She doesn't stay sad and forlorn and misunderstood at the end of the story. She becomes wholly appreciative of herself and her power and changes her entire world. So 6 or 7 months ago, when I kind of witnessed my energy fields change right in front of me to the point where this sweet melancholy in certain poetry and music stopped resonating with me in the same way and started feeling heavy to me instead of like home to me, I was alarmed. I was like, who is this person I'm becoming? Like, who is this? This one who's happier, this one who's having more fun and lightness in her life, this one who doesn't worry so much about so much and feels so much more alive and empowered to speak all the things she normally wouldn't say or do. That one is not the one reflected in these paintings. That one is not this one in these paintings that I used to be. And I don't quite feel 100% fully safe to be this new one yet. Or rather, I am being her. And I feel relatively safe being her, but I don't feel 100% safe to let that other one go. Which is why I felt so much love for these paintings. Because I do love her so much. She brought meaning and magic to my pain. She comforted that deep loneliness and wounding that I had from not feeling seen and understood for who I was, and from not seeing and understanding myself. She created a beautiful landscape for me to explore and to live in that made that pain sweet, so that I could bear it and even enjoy it. And it was so very sweet. But I just don't need the pain part of it anymore. I don't need to carry it like this anymore. But it's a bit like the death of a best friend, or the loss of a home you used to live in. And then it clicked for me that all week I'd been seeing people's beloved dogs and best friends, like their little best friends in the world, their dogs, die on social media from like 5 different people that I follow. Had their like 13 to 16-year-old little beautiful soulmate dogs die. And I just bawled every time I saw this. And it reminded me of when this happened with my Kita 7 years ago. He was my little dog and my little soulmate best friend for 13 and a half years. And then, so I spoke to Kita about this in his formless form as the angel that he is to me now and always was. And he reminded me that it's because it's reflecting the passing of this part of me. This friend and identity that has been my constant companion. This part of myself. but whom has passed. And when she passed, just like when Kita passed, it opened a new chapter and whole new world up in my life. And that is what is happening now. He reminded me it's okay to feel grief about it, and even to still love her as I love that part of me whom will always be with me, just as he was. But that it's also okay to let it go, and to see that there can be every bit as much meaning, rapture, magic, and depth in the more free, more happy, more seen, connected, light, and empowered version of me that is emerging now. I am so grateful to this identity and this part of me that I see so clearly reflected in these beautiful paintings, for reminding me of many soul lifetimes of things that I was wading through, and for being a safe harbor to me, filled to the brim with twinkling lights and beauty and awe and wonder and magic as I moved across that sea of sadness into more liberated shores. I may visit her sometimes, but we no longer live in the same world, is all. I thought that as I moved into this new part of myself, I was threatened with losing the connection to all of you. You who've been with me over the years when I was her. All of you who know or knew me more as her. But really, I was just afraid of losing her and what that would mean for and about me. And I still am sometimes. I don't know what my world will look like moving forward without her front and center. But I also know that that time is gone and it will never be the same. And that's okay. Because what has come now is so much more full of love. And it's all I've ever really wanted. This was such a gorgeous place for me to live, in these paintings, in the feel of those paintings and that identity in me for so long. I'm so happy I had it. And I will continue to love it in my way, just from across the river now, with a smile and a kiss on the wind, knowing that if I ever need to enter that dark forest again, I can, but happy to be on brighter shores and opening fully to the greater fulfillment out in front of me. 10 years ago, I wrote a book about that Alice in Wonderland movie, using it as a parable for the inner journey. And if you haven't read it yet, perhaps now is the time. But either way, I just realized another thing that I loved about that movie as I was thinking of it just now. It was the first of many more movies that would come that would begin to flip this old script in our heads, and that is this. That script is this. Have you ever noticed that in all the old fairy tales, the only one who's getting what they want are the evil queens? Like, my God, of course you can't allow yourself to get what you want, or to even want what you really want fully, when you've been programmed to see that as evil. But the flip side of this programming now is that you're also trained to see the heroines as weak or as weakness. The kind, loving, unassuming one who just kind of goes with the flow of life and surrenders to what is in front of her because she has a deeper trust in nature and life and herself. She's congruent with life. She doesn't argue with it. She goes with it. But she also never lets her hope die. And she believes in magic, and she still moves towards what she loves and what she wants. And she breaks the rules, i.e. leaves the house when she's not supposed to, touches the thimble when she's not supposed to, etc. And she also gets what she wants. So both sides of this in the fairy tales are demonized in some way, in some timeline. Both sides of you are praised in some way by some people and sometimes, and both sides of you are demonized in some way and sometimes. And the point is, all sides of you are the fullness of you. And they actually work together, which appears as conflict in the story, to get you where you most want to go. The villains and the heroes need each other. And I love how in the modern day children's movies these days, the villains are now being shown as human too. Their vulnerabilities are becoming more part of the story. Their needs and their part of the picture is becoming more part of the story too, which reflects a deep shift that's happening in our society. And how is that shift happening in our society? By the hands of artists and creators of all kinds, just like you. So anyway, if you resonate with this and you are ready to cross that river too, I'm here on the other side waiting for you. Happy to keep lighting the way to a broader horizon for all who care to visit it. Whenever you're ready, I'll see you there. And in the meantime, if you would like to buy any of Nam Kinnear King's work, you can and should do so by clicking this link right here, see my email for the link, or just by Googling Nam Kinnear King. I ordered myself the print that felt most resonant to me at this very moment in time. See my email to see that print, which I love so much, and it feels like a self-portrait of me standing before the door of the garden of my beautiful life with clementines and flowers in my hair, being readied by the many little versions of me for this next chapter of wonder and delight. I can't wait to get it and frame it. And her shop is, by the way, also filled with the beautiful work of her partner, Adam Ohlers, again, apologize for any mispronunciation, who is an artist and illustrator in magical realism as well, and whose work I also adore. P.S. I'm not going to stop loving magical realism. Oh, hell no. I just no longer identify as the lost, forlorn girl. That's all. All right. Thank you for joining me today. And if you would like to work with me, you can find my books, courses, podcasts, and other creations at sunnychapman.com/work-with-me. See you next time.